What's happening, guys? I've been doing YouTube for almost 3 years now, and one thing I haven't done this entire time is a meal prep video. So today I'm gonna walk you through a very basic, a beginner chicken, rice, and veg meal prep. Now what's really cool about this meal prep is that it takes an hour, could be even a little less to do, and you get a whole week's worth of either lunches or dinners, however you choose to eat them. So let's hop right into it, let's get cooking, let's do some meal prep. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do is get our rice together because that is going to take the longest to cook. So what I'm doing is I'm adding 4 cups, about a liter of water to a pot, and we're making 2 cups of rice, and you're always going to be using twice as much water as you do rice when you're making rice on your stovetop. Now I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of olive oil just for a little seasoning. Then I'm going to turn my stove up to high and bring the water to a boil. Also at this point you're going to want to preheat your oven to 450 degrees. While the water's coming to a boil, that's when I like to get out my food scale and start weighing out my rice. I'm weighing out 336 grams, that's 2 cups. So now that my water's boiling in my pot, I can add the rice, and I'm going to give it a quick stir just to incorporate some of the olive oil and salt into the rice. Then I'm going to cover the pot with a lid and turn down the heat to a simmer. And the rice is going to take about 40 minutes to simmer, so while that's simmering, I'm going to start prepping my trays to roast my veggies and my chicken. So what you want to do is take a piece of tinfoil out long enough to kind of wrap on the sides of the tray like I'm doing right now, and then with the tops and the bottoms you can just press those down and just make sure that your baking sheet is completely covered in tinfoil. Alright, so now that we've got a couple of baking trays looking good, we can start prepping our veggies. And just so you guys know, I weigh and wash all of my veggies before I prep them, just for whatever reason. I didn't include it in today's meal prep video. Anyways, the first veggie I'm prepping is a large head of broccoli, and I'm just slicing it thin into small floret pieces. And once the entire head of broccoli is chopped up into florets, you can start getting it onto your roasting pan, and you can totally stack your broccoli on top of each other in your pan. Don't worry about that. It actually is kind of nice because it steams some of the broccoli and then some of the top of the broccoli gets charred. So now that the broccoli is prepped, we can move on to prepping our onion. We're going to use a whole red onion in this recipe, and I recommend just cutting off the end of the onion. It'll just help you remove the skin a lot easier. Once you get all the skin off, you can cut the onion in half and then just kind of chop it up into some smaller pieces. Once again, once you get your smaller pieces, you don't have to spread it out all over the sheet. Just kind of line it up and stack your onion on top of each other, just like we did with the broccoli. And then once we transfer all of our onion onto the sheet, we can move on to prepping the green zucchini. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to cut off both ends of the green zucchini because you don't want to eat that part of the zucchini. And once you get your zucchini cut in half, you can start cutting it up into smaller slices. I like to just kind of slice the whole thing thinly like this and then cut those thinly sliced pieces in half again. I just think that ends up being some really nice bite-sized pieces for the meal prep. Once you get all of your zucchini all chopped up, you can add it to your baking sheet with all the other veggies, and now we can start getting our tomatoes together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh out 3 cups or 375 grams of grape tomatoes. I'm using a multicolored grape tomato variety, but cherry tomatoes will work too, guys. But don't worry about cutting up your tomatoes, just add them whole to the baking sheet. And that's it for the veggies, guys. They're all prepped and ready to go. Now we're just gonna get a lemon together just to add some flavor to our veggies and our chicken. Just gonna cut that in half and set it aside. And I'm also going to prep 3 cloves of garlic. I'm gonna smash the garlic with the side of the knife like you're seeing here. This just helps peel the skin of your garlic off a lot easier. And then I'm just gonna end up mincing all 3 cloves and adding that to a little dish. And then I'm gonna set that dish aside and bring my veggies back, and also bring half the lemon back over my veggies and just start marinating my veggies with a little bit of that lemon and then a tablespoon or about 15 grams of olive oil. Once I've got all my lemon and olive oil on my veggies, I'm just going to start patting the veggies with my hands, just kind of working the oil and lemon into the vegetables. And then I'm going to top it with about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning, and I'm also going to use a little crushed pepper and also a little crushed salt. And the last thing I'm adding to my vegetables is about a quarter of the minced garlic that we set aside from earlier. Just going to evenly distribute that all across my vegetables, and then I'm going to set my veggies aside and we're going to start prepping our chicken. And for today's meal prep, we're going to be using 7 large chicken breasts. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking a pair of kitchen shears and I'm just going to start trimming all the fat off my breasts. Of course, guys, you could buy pre-trimmed chicken. I personally just think it's kind of a waste of money. It doesn't really take that long to trim the chicken yourself, and the chicken with the rib meat still attached to it is just way cheaper. Once I get all of the fat removed from my chicken, that's when I'm just going to take the shears and just start cutting nugget sized pieces out of all of the trimmed chicken breasts. And you'll want to have a large bowl next to you while you're doing this, just so you can add those nugget-sized pieces to the bowl as you're cutting up your chicken. And once your chicken's prepped and cut up into all those bite-sized pieces, you can get out the lemon from earlier and just squeeze all of the juice from the remaining half a lemon that you have. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna add the rest of your minced garlic, about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning, and once again, some salt and pepper. It's about a teaspoon of each, but just to taste. Once you get your salt and pepper in there, just go ahead, get your hands a little dirty, and you'll just want to work all of those seasonings into your chicken. And once your chicken is seasoned appropriately, you're going to transfer it all to a baking sheet lined with tinfoil. And you're just going to want to evenly spread the chicken out. You don't want to stack it on top of each other. So if you can't fit all of your chicken on one baking sheet, just be sure to use 2 sheets. But now that our chicken and our veggies are both prepped, we can go ahead and get those into our preheated oven. And the nice thing is the veggies and the chicken are both going to take about the same amount of time. They'll both take about 15 to 20 minutes. And you'll want to just check your chicken first at 15 minutes, see if it's cooked through all the way. And if it is, you can pull both of your trays out at that point. Your veggies are going to be done the same time as your chicken, guys. So now that the chicken and veggies are cooking away, you'll want to just watch your rice at this point because it should be finishing up cooking. And you'll know your rice is finished cooking once it has absorbed all of the water that we added earlier, and it's just slightly a little bit sticky. And once your rice is done cooking, you'll want to take out your food scale and a small bowl, and you'll want to just start transferring the rice over into the small bowl and weighing it out, just so that you know how much rice you have to work with that you can split up evenly between your 7 meal prep containers. So now that you know how much your rice weighs, you're just going to set that bowl aside, and you're going to want to bring over your meal prep container to your scale. Tar your scale to 0. As you're seeing, I'm doing a little bit of quick math to see how much rice I can add to each of my 7 meal prep containers. I think my rice weighed about 1,000 grams, so I divided 1,000 grams by 7. It was about 140 grams in each meal prep container. But once you get your rice in your meal prep container, you'll just want to take a spatula and kind of evenly coat the bottom of each container with an equal amount of rice. And once you've got all of your meal prep containers prepped with an equal amount of rice, your chicken and your vegetables will probably be done at that point. So you can pull those out of your oven and you can bring your chicken over to your scale with another medium-sized bowl and do the same thing that you did with the rice. You're just going to want to turn it on, weigh out all of your chicken after it's cooked, and then divide by 7 to get an equal amount of chicken you can add to each one of your bowls. Mine turned out to be about 140 grams of chicken per container. So I'm just gonna add an equal amount, 140 grams, into each one of my meal prep containers. And once all of your chicken is weighed out, you can then move on to your vegetables. Now, I don't weigh out my vegetables as I add them into my meal prep container. I just tried to add an equal amount of veggies to each container. I weigh out my vegetables actually before I cook them, and that's the weight that I use divided by 7 for the nutritional information of each meal prep container. It's not exact, but it's really close, and that way I don't have to spend all this time weighing out each one of these vegetables separately. It's close enough, you don't have to worry about it, guys. As long as you're weighing out your veggies beforehand, dividing them evenly, you have a pretty good idea about how much each vegetable is adding nutritionally to each meal prep container. So once my veggies are all sorted out, the last thing I like to do is add a quarter of a lemon wedge to each one of the containers. It just helps add a little extra sauce and a little extra flavor when you go to eat your meal prep. So yeah, like I said, guys, this meal prep, super easy, super delicious, and it takes less than an hour, which is just awesome. One recommendation I do have though is that if you don't plan on doubling up and eating 2 of your meal prep containers in one day, the longest I'll keep my cooked chicken in the refrigerator for is 5 days, and obviously this makes 7 containers worth of food. So if you don't plan on doubling up, just keep some of your extra containers in the freezer, take them out the night before, put them in the fridge, and then the next morning they should be defrosted and you can warm them up. They'll be perfect. So that's just a quick tip to make sure you guys don't waste any of your food or your money for that matter. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna list all the ingredients and the instructions in the video description below, along with a rough estimate of the macros of each meal prep tray too. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's meal prep video. If you did, give the video a like, let me know in the comments below that you're digging the meal prep videos, and we'll definitely do more of them, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this meal prep, and I'll see you guys in the next video.